Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Gavin Baulch, and this week our guest is Katrina Haller from Right to Life Australia. Welcome, Katrina.
Thank you, Gavin.
Now, we were talking before, and I found that you've got a very rich cultural background.
Well, I have two Dutch grandfathers, and I suppose they were economic refugees. My husband's father came from the Czech Republic, and he was a political refugee. So we have a European background, I suppose.
Wow. Okay, and talking about your husband, you have 3 children.
Yes, my eldest John Hudson, is pastor of Melbourne Evangelical Church. Yes. They meet at the Multicultural Hub, and they're mostly RMIT students and graduates. I have a son who's an engineering student at RMIT, and he goes to their Bible study classes on Tuesday lunchtimes. And my daughter is a primary teacher.
Okay.
So they've grown up.
All right. But one of the interesting things is your husband is a tree hugger.
He is.
Tell me about his background here.
He is. He's an environmental scientist. He works as a strategic planner. So he tries to save the trees.
Excellent.
And to me, a tree is a symbol of life and growth. So I see my role as trying to save human life. If you respect human life, you respect trees. If you respect trees, you respect human life. It goes hand in hand.
That's good. So what might he say to someone who wants to put a building up, or how do those conversations go sometimes?
Well, he would say, look at these very old trees. They have a significant contribution to the environment in the habitats they provide to flora and fauna. If you moved your building to the back or to the side, you would be able to save those trees, and you'd be able to save the habitat of animals. Wonderful.
Now, what are your children doing as far as career pathways? What's happening there?
John is a pastor at Melbourne Evangelical Church. Mm-hmm. He runs Bible study classes at RMIT. Mm-hmm. RMIT Christian Union is the group that he's working with, so his church comprises students and graduates of that, mostly international students, so he's investing in them. Wonderful.
And your daughter's a primary school teacher?
Daughter's a primary school teacher. Yes. She is teaching Japanese.
Wow.
And my son's gone back to study. He worked in a factory for a while, okay. And now he's doing engineering.
Right. Well, now they're obviously filling in 24 hours, 7 days a week. What occupies some of your time?
I work at the Right to Life office.
Yes.
So we go to lobby politicians. We try to persuade them to introduce pro-life bills and also to vote against anti-life bills. We work in political campaigns, so in the Tasmanian election campaign we were busy with putting advertisements in newspapers. We had a ute with a billboard on the back of it that went around Tasmania. We worked in the South Australian election against a candidate who had introduced a euthanasia bill 9 times. So that's our political work. We run a pregnancy counselling service. So this is a phone counselling service with our trained counsellors, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So anyone in Australia can call for the cost of a local call. We pay the phone bill, and we keep the counsellors' training up to date. We also do some educational work where we go out to schools and community organisations and talk about the right to life of everybody. So everybody has the right to life from the beginning of their life, which is fertilisation, to their natural death. So we support the right to life of everybody.
So your 2 grandfathers were Dutch?
Yes. One grandfather in particular, I remember, had some health issues, but he was terrified of going to a hospital.
Well, why was that?
He said, if I go to a hospital, I will die. His friends went to hospitals and they died. So he just thought they were a place of death, which is different from our view in Australia. We think you go to hospital to get better and then you come out most of the time. But in the end, when he became extremely sick, he went to hospital and he died. So
all right.
That impressed me, his tremendous fear.
And that was based on what? Do you see any reasons today why fear might take hold of an older person when they go to hospital?
Well, the euthanasia program in Holland Yes, as we get older, it's easy to say when you're perfectly well and healthy that when you get sick you might want to die, but when you get sick you often change your mind. You know, you have this will to live. So now we're very concerned about the government proposing funding of hospitals to be linked to advanced care plans. People might go into hospital with one particular condition, then they develop a second condition, they might be given a drug that they're allergic to, and then if they've signed this advanced care plan not to be resuscitated, they won't be resuscitated. A recent example was the one described in The Age over the weekend of the Gippsland Hospital. A woman went in with a sore back. She was given a drug that she was allergic to. She wasn't resuscitated from that allergic reaction. And when the family complained about it, the hospital said, oh, but she signed this document, you know, not to be resuscitated. So she might have signed that with the view of her sore back, but then when she was given a drug she was allergic to, that was an unexpected condition, and that was the cause of her death.
And did The Age have anything else to report on it?
Well, the final view was that investigations are being had. The people involved in that no longer work at the hospital. But we are seeing this advanced care plan being promoted, and so we want to warn people not to sign those. People can have a medical power of attorney now. You can delegate decision making to a member of your family or a friend who know you, but don't sign an advanced care plan because you might be signing your life away.
So it's actually called an advanced care plan. That's how it's being presented at the moment.
Well, yes, that's a play on words, isn't
Yes,
it? Like the George Orwell, 1984. It really says, do not resuscitate me if something happens. So they've turned it upside down and called it a care plan. Thank
you, Katrina, for the information about that document. I'm at that age where I'm signing all kinds of documents when I go into hospital, and I think you have alerted me to be a little more aware of the fine print. You're watching Support Life. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch, and our guest is Katrina Haller. Well, we've covered quite a few topics so far, but I saw a very interesting movie the other day, and it's really pro-life. In fact, I was surprised. And I know that there's many thousands of Australians that are just wanting to go and see the film Noah. There's just this magic moment when the issue of what to do with his new grandchildren, and he is a definite pro-lifer, which might come as a surprise to the audience. So it'll be interesting to see what people say. Now, some of your background, you're a lawyer, I believe.
Yes. Well, I did international law, and the International Convention on the Rights of the Child state that the child, by reason of his physical and mental immaturity, needs special safeguards and care, including appropriate legal protection before as well as after birth. So we say everybody has the right to life, and especially unborn children whose rights are not taken into account of these days. Regardless of how small they are, regardless of their stage of development, regardless of whether they have a disability, they're really discriminated against on the basis of where they live, their place of residence. But the right to life of everybody goes from the moment of conception until natural death. And now we're seeing increasingly attacks with euthanasia bills being presented to Parliament. So the right to life spans everybody's life. Anybody could be disabled tomorrow. We say that's not a reason to withdraw support or kill someone. We must respect the life of every human being.
So are we totally ignoring international law? What's the connection here? We seem to be undermining it rather than supporting it.
Well, yes, it's the rights of the child, and it's being pitted against the so-called rights of the mother. We hear the catch cry, the mothers have a right to choose. The right to choose. Well, that clashes against the right to life of the child. But the right to life is the most basic right of all, because without that, all other rights are meaningless. What is the point of having the right to free assembly or the right to free speech if you don't have the right to life itself? So that is the most basic of all human rights. So we say the right to life of children should trump the desires of adults.
Well, in the movie Noah, there's this moment where Noah makes a choice and he chooses to keep his grandchildren. He was considering infanticide, and he didn't. They lived, and he chose life. It's a very interesting moment.
Yes, choose life. I've put before you life and death so that you may choose life.
Yes. And how does your practice apply to right to life? Are you called upon to go to court for anybody, or do you advise the government here?
Well, we're always writing submissions to the government, but on a practical level, we have our counsellors, some of whom stand outside abortion clinics in Melbourne, and so they meet the girls there. And one girl in particular was shown some photographs of the development of her baby at that stage of pregnancy, and she then changed her mind. So we helped her. She had some immigration problems, so we had to help with sorting that out. She now has this beautiful baby. Other girls have problems if they're students, so they can come to one of our homes and live for the duration of their pregnancy. They can complete their studies by correspondence, and then they have a beautiful baby. And in many cases, those babies are adopted. So from a practical point of view, we help women with pregnancies and they're in a difficult situation. And so that's a very happy part of our work.
Wonderful. Well, now, I had noticed that when you first sat down, you're wearing a very interesting brooch. Would you like to just explain it to me?
These are the size of the feet of a 10-week unborn child. So the development happens very early in the pregnancy. So it's like 3 weeks after fertilisation, the heart is beating, and then the spine and brain are developing. So development takes place very early. All the organ systems are formed by 10 weeks. And in the second 2 trimesters of pregnancy, the baby substantially merely grows. So these feet are a 10-week unborn child's feet. The
wow.
Same size.
Well, I'm not sure how large my feet were when I was born, but I was one of those early 27-week prem children back in 1946 and survived. And my father told me that I would fit in the cup of his hand.
Wow.
So I must have had small feet. Things have changed since then. Of course, I've developed size 11. So do you find that women respond to the imaging when they go in for a scan?
Yes.
What's the magic moment for them?
Yes, if they see the ultrasound, they can see the shape of the baby's head and the baby's heart beating and their little arms and legs. And that's a very positive moment because then they make a connection with the baby.
And do you often have moments when you're with them when they see the ultrasound?
I haven't personally, but I've heard many stories where then if they're feeling ambivalent, they change their mind to positively want to continue the pregnancy. So this is one of the things that we would like to see in clinics when women have a pregnancy test, that they see the ultrasound of their baby, or they can hear their baby's heartbeat, because that's a very positive sign. They then connect with the baby.
You have how many grandchildren?
3 grandchildren.
Okay, and their ages are?
4, 2.5 and 1.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so were you there close to the birth?
Oh, well, their mother sent me the ultrasound photos. So that was very exciting, very positive.
Well, you know, technology helps us, doesn't it? And it supports the right to life. And
it does, yes. We have science and technology on our side. Because in our days, you know, we might have been a bunch of cells, but now the young people can see the development of the unborn child.
I'm rather pleased that I wasn't aborted. You're watching Support Life. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch and our guest is Katrina Haller. Well, here we are again. We're in the last trimester, you could say, of this conversation and touched on a few things. I want to come back to words and their meanings. What about conscience today?
Well, we all have a personality, so we all work every day according to our conscience. I decide whether I'm going to have 6 beers before I go to work or not. It's part of our everyday life and our personality. The malicious part of the Victorian Abortion Law Reform Act is that it denies health professionals the ability to act according to their conscience. We have already had one doctor who was presented with a case. The couple had a 19-week daughter. The father said he didn't want a daughter, he wanted a son. The doctor said, well, I don't know any doctor that would abort this 19-week baby on the grounds that the baby's female. Now, the Medical Board of Victoria hauled him up, and also the federal part of that, APRA, the Australian Health Professionals Regulation Agency, investigated him for 15 months. He was denied natural justice and he was threatened with losing his livelihood because they're responsible for registration of doctors. So he could have lost his registration. They threatened him with that. They threatened him with being reprimanded and being given a caution because he didn't refer a woman who was asking about abortion to an abortionist. So another doctor too has just said something on Facebook that he wouldn't refer a mother to an abortionist, and now he is being investigated by APRA. So now they're the Facebook police. So this is the malicious part of the Abortion Law Reform Act. It provides abortions right up to birth for any or no reason, and if you are a health practitioner and somebody starts asking about abortion, you must refer them to an abortionist. Otherwise you can lose your registration. So a very malicious part of the Act. And people can't work according to their conscience.
Are doctors leaving the state of Victoria?
I believe some have left the state, yes. And I guess the end result of this will be that doctors who have a conscience will not want to go into the field of obstetrics. And we will lose our good obstetricians.
That's a very sad situation, very sad set of facts.
It is shocking. We have to do something about that.
And who else is supporting these doctors who have a conscience?
Well, there is a doctors group who are supporting the doctors who have a conscience. And there are some good politicians who are trying to bring in a law which will enable all health professionals to work according to their conscience. Because they are still part of the abortion if they help someone to get the abortion.
Yes. All right. Let's look at victims. How is the word victim used these days, and why does it fall short?
I suppose victim denotes a powerlessness, doesn't it? We say that the unborn child is a victim. They are the most vulnerable, the smallest. They can't defend themselves. They're the most innocent human being you could have. So they are the victims of, this mentality. If it's a bit inconvenient, we won't allow this child to live. But of course, the pro-abortion lobby presents the opposite view. They say the woman is the victim. So all sympathies go to the woman. So it's a clash, isn't it, between the rights to life of the child and the mother's convenience or life circumstances or what she wants to do. So
I know often the argument is, well, if a woman is raped, okay, but what do we find is the woman's choice when she has time to consider her pregnancy?
Well, I think in your heart of hearts, a woman wants to continue that pregnancy. She might be in a situation where that doesn't sort of quite fit in with what other people want her to do, but if she thinks about it, if she gives herself time to listen to herself, in her heart of hearts, she loves that baby.
So we're really looking at counselling that has the full spectrum of choice in it. Is it being limited at the abortion clinics or through the system that operates in Victoria?
Oh, well, the counselling you get in an abortion clinic, how can you say that that is even neutral? Because nobody gets paid unless the abortion takes place. So, you know, they have a vested financial interest in it. Our pregnancy counselling service offers counselling to women, and they really give women time to think and through all the different options that they have, and to listen to themselves. And that's a very powerful, life-affirming thing for these women.
So we're kind of saying that intuitively, given time, a woman will choose life.
Well, yes, her body is doing something that it is designed to do. It's natural for her. So, you know, I believe it's so unnatural to go against what your body is designed to do. And there are awful repercussions. And, you know, women afterwards feel guilty, feel empty. Well, besides physical complications, there's a lot of mental problems too. We see depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, substance abuse. So it's a very destructive thing to do.
So we are saying then that post-abortion trauma is very real.
It is very real, yes, and we have trained counsellors who specialised in post-abortion trauma.
So when would a woman first, for herself, you know, say, oh, I'm going through trauma here. What are some of the early signs?
Well, sometimes it's quite immediate, like the woman might have a complete nervous breakdown and then she connects that with the abortion. But other times she might become alcoholic, you know, which might be a more gradual process, and she won't connect that with the abortion. It's only when she has counselling that she makes the connection.
Thank you, Katrina. We've had quite a journey today. We've hugged trees, we've hugged babies, we've looked at the meaning of some words, and we've been warned to be thoughtful about documents that we sign in the hospital. So thanks again. You've been watching Support Life. Join us again next week.